Don't eat the cake, the timid waitress whispered urgently in my ear before disappearing into the crowd. 20 minutes later, I was unconscious on the restaurant floor, with my face swollen beyond recognition, while my sister-in-law Olivia stood over me with frosting on her fingers and innocence painted across her face. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because what I discovered next will make your blood boil. Let me take you back to how a simple birthday celebration became the most dangerous night of my life, and how it led me to uncover a scheme that could have cost me everything, including my life. My name is Jessica, and for 8 years, I thought I had married into the perfect American family. My husband Mike came from old Connecticut money, the kind where family portraits hang in country clubs and trust funds are discussed over Sunday brunch. His younger sister Olivia had always been the golden child, blonde, bubbly, and blessed with the kind of charm that made everyone instantly adore her. I, on the other hand, was the outsider. Born to immigrant parents who ran a small grocery store in Queens, I worked 2 jobs to put myself through NYU. When Mike and I met during our MBA program, I thought I'd finally found my place in this world. His family welcomed me with warm hugs and expensive wine, and for years, I believed their acceptance was genuine. But looking back now, I can see the subtle signs I missed. The way Olivia's smile never quite reached her eyes when she looked at me. How she'd make little comments about my exotic background or my interesting fashion choices. The way she'd always managed to one-up any achievement I shared. When I got promoted to senior marketing director, she'd casually mention her new volunteer position at the Metropolitan Museum. When Mike and I bought our first house, she'd show us pictures of the Hamptons estate she was considering purchasing. I brushed it all off as harmless sibling rivalry. After all, she was family now, and Mike adored his little sister. He'd always say, "Olivia's just passionate about everything she does. She means well." I wanted so desperately to belong that I convinced myself her behavior was normal. Just the quirky dynamics of an established American family that I needed to learn to navigate. The real signs started appearing after Mike's father passed away 2 years ago. Suddenly, family gatherings became less frequent, and when they did happen, Olivia would spend most of the time whispering with her mother about family business and estate planning. Mike would get defensive whenever I asked about it, saying his family had always been private about money matters. The birthday trap. Fast forward to that fateful evening in March. It was Olivia's 30th birthday, and she'd insisted on celebrating at Chez Laurent, an upscale French restaurant in Manhattan. The invitation came with specific instructions. Formal attire required. This is a milestone celebration. I spent weeks planning the perfect outfit and researching the restaurant to make sure I'd fit in seamlessly. The moment I walked into that elegantly lit dining room, something felt off. The usual warmth in Mike's family's greetings seemed forced, almost theatrical. Olivia air-kissed me with excessive enthusiasm. Her mother complimented my dress with what sounded like genuine surprise. And Mike's uncle kept making jokes about keeping the family together that everyone laughed at a bit too loudly. But the cake? God, that cake was gorgeous. A 3-tier masterpiece covered in delicate sugar flowers and elegant script that read, "Happy birthday, darling Olivia." It sat on a silver pedestal at the center of our private dining room, surrounded by flickering candles and fresh peonies. Everyone kept commenting on how beautiful it was, how Olivia had such exquisite taste, how this was exactly the kind of celebration she deserved. That's when the young waitress, she couldn't have been more than 19, with nervous hands and kind eyes, approached me as I was heading back from the restroom. She glanced around nervously before leaning close and whispering those 4 words that saved my life. "Don't eat the cake." Before I could ask her what she meant, she'd already hurried away, disappearing into the busy restaurant corridor. I stood there for a moment, confused and slightly unnerved. Was she talking about the birthday cake? Why would she warn me about that? Maybe she'd noticed something wrong with it. A hygiene issue, perhaps. Or maybe it had fallen and been put back together. I returned to the table with that warning echoing in my mind, trying to act normal as Olivia's celebration continued around me. The conversation flowed about her upcoming art gallery opening, her recent trip to Tuscany, and her exciting new investment opportunities. Everyone seemed genuinely happy, including Mike, who kept reaching over to squeeze my hand and whisper about how proud he was to be part of this family. When it came time to cut the cake, Olivia made a big show of it. She stood up, tapped her champagne flute with a silver spoon, and delivered a heartfelt speech about family, love, and new beginnings. "I'm so grateful," she said, her voice catching with emotion, "to have all the people I love most in this room tonight. Family isn't just about blood, it's about the bonds we choose to honor and protect." Everyone applauded, and then she picked up the ornate cake server. "Jessica, darling," she called out sweetly, "would you help me serve everyone? After all, you're practically the sister I never had." The phrase felt loaded somehow, but I smiled and joined her at the cake table. As she cut the first slice, a perfect triangle with layers of vanilla sponge and what looked like strawberry filling, the waitress's warning flashed through my mind again. Something about Olivia's demeanor felt different too. Too eager, too focused on making sure I got the first piece. "This one's for you, Jessica," she said, holding out a plate with an especially generous slice. "You've been such an important part of our family." I hesitated for just a moment, that warning still echoing, and politely said, "Oh, you should have the first slice, Olivia. It's your birthday." Her smile flickered, just for a second, but she quickly recovered. "Nonsense, I insist. Besides, I'm watching my figure." She practically thrust the plate toward me. That's when she did something that, in hindsight, was the most chilling moment of the entire evening. Without any warning, without any of the playful build-up that usually accompanies such gestures, Olivia scooped up a handful of frosting and smeared it directly across my face. "Oops," she giggled as frosting filled my mouth and nose. "Sorry, Jessica, you know how silly I get at parties." Everyone burst into laughter. Mike was recording with his phone, saying something about how cute we looked together. Olivia's mother clapped her hands in delight. Even the waitstaff smiled at what appeared to be harmless family fun. But within seconds, I felt the familiar burning sensation in my throat. My severe nut allergy, something that Olivia had known about for years, was kicking in fast. The frosting contained almond extract, and as it made contact with my mouth and lips, my face began to swell. My breathing became labored, my vision started to blur, and panic set in as I realized what was happening. "I can't breathe," I managed to gasp, clawing at my throat. "Call 911." The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was Olivia's face hovering over mine, her expression perfectly crafted to show concern and confusion. "Oh my God," she was saying to the gathering crowd. "I had no idea. How terrible. Someone call an ambulance." I woke up in Mount Sinai Hospital 12 hours later with an IV in my arm and Mike holding my hand. The doctors explained that I'd had a severe anaphylactic reaction and that if the restaurant hadn't acted so quickly with their EpiPen and emergency protocols, I might not have survived. "It was so scary, Jess," Mike kept saying. "Olivia's beside herself. She keeps crying and saying she forgot about your allergy. She's been here all night, worried sick." But something didn't feel right about his explanation. Olivia had been at our wedding, where we'd specifically instructed the caterers about my nut allergy. She'd been to dozens of family dinners where I'd carefully checked ingredients. She'd even made a point of asking restaurants about allergens when we'd gone out together in the past. Forgetting wasn't possible, which meant this had been intentional. As I lay in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling tiles and listening to the steady beep of monitors, I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to find out exactly what Olivia had been planning and why she'd tried to hurt me. The investigation started small. When Mike went home to shower and change clothes, I asked my nurse if I could see the emergency room report. Hospital policies usually don't allow this, but Nurse Patricia had been working there for 20 years and had seen enough domestic situations to recognize when something wasn't quite right. "Honey," she said quietly, "that girl who came in with you? She didn't act like someone who'd accidentally poisoned their sister-in-law. She was asking a lot of questions about your condition, about how long recovery takes, about whether this kind of reaction could cause permanent damage. Most people in her situation would be apologizing or crying. She was calculating." That word sent chills down my spine. Calculating. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Your support means everything to me. Over the next week, while I recovered at home, I started digging into Olivia's recent activities. It began with simple things, checking her social media posts, looking through family photos, trying to understand when her behavior toward me had really started to change. What I found was disturbing. For the past 6 months, Olivia had been systematically documenting what she called Jessica's instability. Screenshots of text messages where I'd expressed frustration about work. Photos from family gatherings where I looked tired or stressed, always with captions about hoping Jessica finds peace or praying for her mental health. She'd even posted about my allergy, framing it as a constant source of family stress. Having to accommodate special dietary needs at every family gathering, she'd written. Sometimes I wonder if it's really as severe as claimed, or if some people just enjoy being the center of attention. But the real bombshell came when I accessed our family's shared cloud storage. Mike had given me the password years ago for sharing vacation photos, and I'd never thought to look at other folders. Now, driven by suspicion, I explored everything. In a folder labeled Estate Planning, I found documents that made my blood run cold. Olivia had been working with a lawyer to contest her father's will. According to these papers, Mike stood to inherit the family's primary assets, including a $2.3 million portfolio and the Connecticut estate, but only if he remained married and demonstrated family stability. The will included a specific clause. If Mike divorced or became widowed within 10 years of his father's death, his inheritance would default to Olivia as the more stable family member. There were psychological evaluation requirements, testimony from family members about character and judgment, and a provision that any spouse who created ongoing family disruption could disqualify the inheritor. Olivia had been building a case that I was mentally unstable, prone to dramatic reactions, and a source of constant family tension. The nut allergy accident would have been the perfect capstone. Either I'd die in what appeared to be a tragic mistake, leaving Mike a young widower who'd need his sister's support, or I'd survive but appear to be someone who overreacted to a simple party mishap, further damaging my credibility with the family. Armed with this information, I faced a choice. I could confront Olivia privately, hoping she'd back down and leave me alone. I could tell Mike everything and hope he'd believe me over his beloved sister. Or I could do something more decisive, something that would expose her scheme publicly and protect any other woman who might marry into this family. I chose the third option. First, I consulted with a lawyer about the inheritance documents I'd found. He confirmed that while Olivia's strategy was morally reprehensible, it wasn't technically illegal unless I could prove intentional harm. The poisoning, however, was attempted murder, if I could demonstrate that she'd known about the nuts in the frosting. That's where the restaurant's security cameras became crucial. Chez Laurent, like most upscale establishments, recorded everything for liability purposes. When I explained my situation to the manager, a kind woman named Marie who remembered the incident, she was more than willing to review the footage with me. What we found was devastating. Clear video of Olivia arriving at the restaurant 2 hours before the party, speaking privately with the pastry chef, and specifically pointing to ingredients while holding what appeared to be a list. The audio wasn't clear enough to understand her words, but her body language was unmistakably deliberate and instructional. Marie pulled the chef into our meeting, and his face went pale when he understood what we were discussing. She told me she wanted to surprise her sister-in-law with her favorite flavors, he admitted. She specifically requested almond extract in the frosting and crushed almonds in the filling. She said the family member loved nuts, but was too polite to ask for them specially. The exact opposite of the truth. Olivia had specifically requested the ingredients that could kill me. 2 weeks later, I was ready for the nuclear option. Olivia had called a family meeting to discuss Jessica's concerning behavior since the accident, and to suggest that Mike might want to evaluate their relationship for everyone's sake. She'd invited Mike's mother, uncle, and 2 family friends to serve as neutral observers for what she framed as an intervention. The meeting was set for Sunday afternoon at the family's Connecticut estate. Olivia had prepared a presentation. I'm not kidding, an actual PowerPoint documenting my erratic behavior patterns and attention-seeking incidents. She'd invited Dr. Patricia Whitman, a family therapist who specialized in high-conflict personalities, to facilitate the discussion. But I was prepared too. I arrived with my lawyer, David Chen, and copies of everything I'd discovered. More importantly, I'd arranged for the restaurant's pastry chef to attend as a witness, along with 3 character witnesses of my own. My former supervisor, who could speak to my professional stability, my longtime physician who could confirm my allergy history, and most importantly, the young waitress who'd tried to warn me. Her name was Maria Santos, and she'd been working at Chez Laurent for 6 months. She'd overheard Olivia's conversation with the chef and had been horrified when she realized what was being planned. "I tried to find a way to warn you," she explained tearfully. "I knew something terrible was going to happen, but I was scared I'd lose my job if I said anything directly." The look on Olivia's face when I walked into that living room with my entourage was something I'll never forget. All the color drained from her cheeks, and for the first time since I'd known her, she was completely speechless. "Hello, everyone," I said calmly, taking a seat at the mahogany table where family decisions had been made for generations. "I understand Olivia has some concerns about my mental health. I thought it might be helpful to address those concerns with some factual information." What followed was the most intense 2 hours of my life. David methodically presented each piece of evidence while I watched the faces around that table shift from confusion to shock to horror. The inheritance documents hit first. Mike's face went white when he realized his sister had been planning to manipulate his father's will from the moment the old man died. His mother gasped audibly when she saw Olivia's calculations about the 10-year clause. "Olivia, honey," her mother whispered, "please tell me this isn't what it looks like." But Olivia remained silent, her perfect composure finally cracking as the evidence mounted. Then came the restaurant footage. Watching Olivia deliberately order the ingredients that could kill me, seeing her lie directly to the chef's face, witnessing her calculate exactly how to make my death look accidental. It was devastating even for me, and I'd lived through it. Mike started crying, actually crying, right there at the family table. "How could you do this to Jessica?" he kept asking. "How could you do this to me? She could have died, Olivia. She could have died." The psychological evaluation folder was particularly damning. Olivia had been documenting my behavior for months, but when David presented it alongside my actual medical records, work performance reviews, and character references, the manipulation became obvious. Every concerning incident she'd noted had a reasonable explanation that she'd deliberately omitted. Dr. Whitman, who'd come to facilitate what she thought would be a routine family intervention, was visibly shaken. "I've never seen anything like this," she admitted. "This level of systematic deception and manipulation, it suggests a serious personality disorder that requires immediate professional intervention." The room was dead silent for several minutes after David finished his presentation. Everyone was staring at Olivia, who sat frozen in her chair like a deer caught in headlights. Finally, Mike's uncle, a retired federal judge who'd always been the family's moral compass, spoke up. "Olivia, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done here. This isn't just about money or family drama. You attempted to murder your brother's wife." "That's not—" Olivia started to protest, but he held up his hand. "The evidence is overwhelming. You deliberately ordered ingredients that you knew would cause a potentially fatal allergic reaction. You created an elaborate scheme to steal your brother's inheritance. You've been systematically trying to destroy an innocent woman's reputation for months. This is criminal behavior." That's when Olivia finally broke. The mask of sweet, innocent family darling fell away completely, and what emerged was something cold and calculating and utterly without remorse. "You want to know the truth?" she said, her voice sharp and bitter. "Fine. Jessica never belonged in this family. She's not one of us. She doesn't understand our traditions, our values, our way of life. Everything we built over generations is being diluted by her presence." The racism in her words hung heavy in the room. This wasn't just about money. It was about Olivia's belief that I, as the daughter of immigrants, wasn't worthy of the family's acceptance. "She comes from nothing," Olivia continued, her voice rising. "Her parents run a corner store. She went to public school. She doesn't understand what it means to be part of a family like ours. And Mike was too blinded by infatuation to see that she'd never truly fit in." "Stop talking," Mike said quietly. "Just stop." But Olivia couldn't stop. Years of hidden resentment came pouring out. "I did what I had to do to protect our family's legacy. If that makes me the villain in your eyes, fine, but I won't apologize for putting family first." I had remained quiet throughout most of this revelation, letting the evidence speak for itself. But hearing Olivia's justification, her belief that my background made me unworthy of basic human dignity, finally pushed me to respond. I stood up slowly, looking directly at this woman who had tried to kill me, and said the words that I'd been holding back for 8 years. Olivia, you're right about one thing. I don't come from your world. My parents did run a small grocery store, and they worked 16-hour days to give me opportunities they never had. I did go to public school, and I earned every scholarship, every grade, every achievement through my own effort. But you're wrong about what that means. I paused, letting my words settle in the room. It means I understand the value of hard work, integrity, and treating people with respect, regardless of their background. It means I know the difference between earning something and feeling entitled to it. And it means I recognize manipulation and cruelty when I see it, because I've had to fight against it my entire life. The room was completely silent now. Even Olivia had stopped talking. You tried to kill me because you couldn't stand the thought of your brother loving someone who didn't fit your narrow definition of acceptability. You were willing to commit murder to maintain your sense of superiority. That doesn't make you a protector of family values, Olivia. That makes you a dangerous sociopath. I turned to address the rest of the family. I'm not asking anyone to choose sides here. The evidence speaks for itself. But I want you all to understand that this isn't about money, or inheritance, or family traditions. This is about basic human decency. And any family that can't extend that decency to all its members isn't a family worth protecting. What happened next moved swiftly. Mike's uncle, drawing on his legal experience, immediately contacted the district attorney's office. Within 48 hours, Olivia was arrested and charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and fraud related to the inheritance manipulation. The restaurant's cooperation was crucial. Not only did they provide the security footage, but the management team testified about Olivia's deliberate deception regarding my allergies. Maria Santos, despite her fears about employment repercussions, bravely testified about overhearing Olivia's plans and her desperate attempt to warn me. Olivia's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, arguing that this was a family dispute that got out of hand, rather than attempted murder. But the evidence was too strong, and the premeditation too clear. She ultimately pled guilty to assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm and fraud, receiving a sentence of 8 years in prison and full restitution of legal costs. The family dynamics, unsurprisingly, never recovered. Mike's mother struggled with the revelation that her daughter was capable of such cruelty, and she eventually moved to Florida to live with her sister. Mike's uncle became our strongest supporter, helping us navigate the legal proceedings and offering genuine apologies for the family's failure to see Olivia's true nature earlier. Mike himself went through months of therapy to process the betrayal. Learning that his beloved sister had been willing to kill his wife for money shattered his worldview entirely. But ultimately, it brought us closer together. The experience forced him to examine his own assumptions about family, loyalty, and what really matters in life. We used part of Mike's inheritance, which he did ultimately receive, free and clear, to establish a scholarship fund for first-generation college students. It felt like the right way to honor the values that Olivia had tried to destroy. That worth isn't determined by background, that everyone deserves opportunity, and that true family is built on love and respect, not blood and money. This experience taught me something profound about the nature of family and belonging in America. We like to tell ourselves that we live in a meritocracy, where hard work and character matter more than background. But the truth is that many families, particularly those with old money and established social positions, still operate with deeply entrenched ideas about who deserves to belong. Olivia's actions were extreme, but her underlying attitudes weren't unusual. The subtle exclusion, the condescending comments about my exotic background, the assumption that I needed to prove my worthiness over and over again. These are experiences that many women from immigrant families face when they marry into established American families. The difference is that most people don't try to commit murder when their prejudices are challenged. Most people eventually learn to expand their definition of family, or at least to keep their biases to themselves. Olivia's willingness to kill rather than accept change revealed a level of hatred that went far beyond normal family tension. But here's what I learned. You can't earn acceptance from people who fundamentally believe you don't deserve it. No amount of success, assimilation, or accommodation will satisfy someone who sees your very existence as a threat to their worldview. The only path forward is to surround yourself with people who value you for who you are, not despite who you are. Today, 5 years after that terrible birthday party, Mike and I have built a life that reflects our own values rather than inherited expectations. We sold the Connecticut estate and bought a smaller house in a diverse neighborhood in Brooklyn, closer to my parents and the community where I grew up. We host gatherings that include family, friends, colleagues, and neighbors. People from all backgrounds who treat each other with genuine respect and affection. Mike has reconnected with his extended family members who were horrified by Olivia's actions and wanted to make amends. His cousin Emma, who moved back from California after hearing what happened, has become one of my closest friends. His great-aunt Ruth, now 89 years old, makes a point of asking about my parents and sharing stories about her own immigrant grandparents. We've learned that real family isn't about protecting traditions or maintaining social positions. It's about creating space for everyone to belong, supporting each other through difficulties, and celebrating differences rather than trying to eliminate them. Olivia will be eligible for parole in 3 more years. Her lawyers have reached out several times about reconciliation and healing family wounds. We've made it clear that we have no interest in contact with her, now or ever. Some betrayals are unforgivable, and attempted murder definitely falls into that category. But I don't spend time thinking about Olivia anymore. She made her choices, and she's living with the consequences. My focus is on the life Mike and I have built together, the family we've chosen, and the future we're creating. The young waitress, Maria, has become part of our extended family. She's working her way through college now, studying criminal justice with dreams of becoming a detective. She says that night at the restaurant taught her the importance of speaking up when you see something wrong, even when it's scary or uncomfortable. You never know, she told me recently, when your voice might be the thing that saves someone's life. Thanks for watching this story to the end. It's been therapeutic to share it, and I hope it helps someone else recognize the warning signs of family manipulation before it's too late. But I'm curious about something. If you were in my position, if you discovered that a family member had tried to kill you for money, what would you have done? Would you have handled it privately or taken it public like I did? Would you have been able to forgive, or would you have cut ties completely? Let me know in the comments what you think, and check out how many people agree with your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more stories like this one, because unfortunately, this wasn't the only drama this family had in store for me. The truth is, some people will never accept you, no matter how hard you try to earn their approval. But that says everything about them and nothing about you. Your worth isn't determined by other people's prejudices, and you don't owe anyone access to your life if they can't treat you with basic respect. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's living well despite their attempts to destroy you. And sometimes the most radical act is simply refusing to disappear.